Welcome back to the DDR Football and English podcast. This is episode 7, and as always, I'm your host Jack, and as ever, I'm joined by DDR Football and English on Twitter. Callum, how are you, Callum?
I'm okay, thank you, Jack. Nice to be back again for another podcast.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. So, obviously, we're back with our usual results show. Thank you for the level of support on the Leipzig Derby special. We got good level of engagement on that, and Shemi Leipzig themselves liked the tweet, so don't know if that gave them a bit of luck going into the derby or not, but of course congratulations Shemi on your derby victory. But we'll just jump in as always and start off with the Bundesliga and a 4-1 win for Union Berlin against SC Freiburg. Union Berlin down in Baden-Württemberg. Nice 4-1 win for Union there, and that's them secured European football. So Callum, this is your forte, Union Berlin, so take it away.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a part you don't like this, Jack, does it? Seeing Union succeed while Hertha's still got to fight for their survival in the Bundesliga, but hey, it is a brilliant result for Union, weren't it, against their fellow European side in Freiburg. You know, they've had a wonderful season themselves, and you know they went there. And I didn't expect them to. I expected them to fight, but to get a win, and especially in that manner, is incredible. It's, 3-0 up at half time. It's dreamland. It's like how did that happen? It was brilliant performance for Union, and to finish 4-1, guaranteeing themselves into Europe against a fellow side, as I said. It's a brilliant result, and it's just amazing to see how far this club has come right now, and to even go one step better from last year when you thought, this is the peak from being in the Bundesliga in a couple of years. I think this is the peak. It's not. They still feel like they've got their peak to come Union at the moment. The way they've dealt with losing Cruiser in January, to have that little blip and to finish the season strongly as they have done, to guarantee Europe with a game to go, it's incredible. It really is. And they still might even go one better than last year, qualifying for Europa League instead of the Conference League. And there's a small chance, though not really realistic, is the Champions League. But even with mathematically even a chance of that in the last game of the season is, it won't happen due to the goal difference. But it's incredible for Union to be in that stage. It's so it's a brilliant result against Freiburg. European football guaranteed for a second successive season. Oh, what a time to be a Union fan, isn't it? Brilliant stuff.
Definitely. I think it's been sort of ironic in a way. Urs Fischer said at the start of the season, I'll be happy if we avoid relegation. Well, he's went there and some, so I think as much as, I'm on the Hertha and BFC side of things, you've got to admire what they've done. They're a club with very little resources. They're a small club from quite an isolated part of Eastern Berlin, and they're going to get European football. And I think Freiburg as well, obviously just deviating slightly, Freiburg, I think it's a monumental achievement for them to be getting European football as well. Obviously, it's more or less mathematically impossible for Union, considering any sort of dramatic swinging goal difference for them to get into the Champions League. But, obviously, Europa League's not completely secured yet. If Union sort of mess it up in Köln, get a result against Stuttgart, could also drop into the Conference League qualifiers, but I don't think that'll happen. Stuttgart have got a lot to fight for. Obviously, they're battling out for the playoff spot now, and they want to avoid that. So I think definitely Union are going to get Europa League group stage football next season. So we'll move on now to the Zweite Bundesliga, and here are your DDR results in the Zweite Bundesliga. It's Hansa Rostock 0, Ingolstadt 0, Erzgebirge Aue 0, Werder Bremen 3, Karlsruhe SC 2, Dynamo Dresden 2. So obviously, the big talking point at the Zweite Bundesliga is Dynamo Dresden have learned of their playoff opponents. They will play Kaiserslautern, and potentially, I think, one of the biggest matches we've seen in the playoff for East German football since Union went up against Stuttgart. I think that this is huge for Dynamo Dresden. Two big traditional sides, one from the west, one from the east, going head to head. So I think for Dynamo Dresden, it's maybe just about getting the momentum, getting that Saxon derby win, and really just having that energy and that momentum heading into the game against Kaiserslautern. And so, Callum, obviously, like I just mentioned there, a big traditional clash ahead for Dynamo there. It's going to be difficult for them, isn't it?
It's going to be very difficult, but I think you hit the nail on the head there, Jack, with the last game of the season against Auer to come. You know, you win that and you take the momentum out of a big Saxon derby win into the playoff. I feel like that's a bit more crucial than it's actually is on paper, with obviously nothing to play for both clubs, but it's the momentum you can bring through that derby win into the relegation playoff. It'll be massive, because if you go into the back of that after no wins in 2022 for Dresden, which it currently is, you know, another draw at the weekend against Karlsruhe, you know, a game they probably should have won, but they concede a goal and then they just go crumble again. It seems to be the way it has been for Dresden this second part of the season, at least. So I think the game against Auer is a lot bigger than it's is on paper for him, because you go, like I said, if you go into a derby defeat into this playoff with no wins in 2022, it's going to be incredibly difficult to raise yourself, and the confidence will be shattered. You know, against an already relegated Auer as well. It's going to be difficult, but you go in with a win, the momentum completely changes, and you know, Kaiserslautern themselves have just changed their manager in a complete panic decision. It seems it's completely bonkers to me, and to bring in Dirk Schuster as well. They have at Kaiserslautern the ex-Auer manager as well. You don't know what stage or what mentality Kaiserslautern's at the moment, because they've just lost 3 in a row at the end of their Dritte Liga campaign. And yeah, it's going to be a difficult game though, because like you said, there's 2 traditional massive fan bases. You know, an ex-German champion against an ex-East German champion. You know, it's crazy how this is even fighting out for a second division. This should be the playoff for the Bundesliga, never mind the second division. It's crazy, but you know, it's going to be a tough couple of games. But I do think a lot could lie with how this Auer game goes in terms of momentum and mentality for Dresden. I really do think it's a lot bigger than it is, and that could tell you how the playoff will go.
Definitely. I think the thing is, for me with Dynamo, is they need to get a result at the Fritz-Walter Stadion. You know, that they need to win at home. Dynamo need to win at home. I think they bottle it at home, that's it. You know, I think it instantly it slips away from them. They need to get a result at Fritz-Walter Stadion and take that momentum with them, because otherwise they're in big trouble. You know, and after that let's be honest, the good start to the season is the only reason why they didn't go down automatically.
Yeah.
I mean, that Auer have had the exact same form as Dynamo, more or less, and look at what's happened to them. So if Dynamo hadn't had that good start to the season, they would have been gone automatically. So I think the thing is, for the Dynamo fans, is that this is huge for them. You know, they don't want to end up back in the Dritte Liga. It's such a good campaign in the Dritte Liga last season. There's a lot of promise heading into this season. They just don't want to go down that way. But the playoffs are notoriously, I mean, look at what happened with Nuremberg a few seasons back. You know, even although they lost in the second leg, they still stayed up on away goals. And, you know, there's so many permutations there. And Dynamo are going to really have to fight for this, because Kaiserslautern will be wanting to get back. You know, it's as simple as that. You know, they want to be getting back into the Zweite Bundesliga. They've been down in the Dritte Liga for far too long. And there's a feeling from Kaiserslautern fans that this is their time. This is the time to come back. And I just think that's going to slightly work against Dynamo. And yeah, it's going to be an absolute thriller of a clash, though. And I think with Dynamo Dresden, it's huge. It makes or breaks next season for them. Next season, if they stay up, I think they might push on a bit, maybe get to where Hansa have been in the league this season. And obviously, they'll have an Elbe Classico, which, just like to address the elephant in the room for a second here, this wasn't deliberate. We didn't pre-coordinate this. He had the Dynamo shirt on and I had the Magdeburg shirt on for the podcast today. That was a complete accident, but there we go. Both sides of the Elbe Classico being represented today. But yeah, I think they'll have an Elbe Classico. Then again, if they go down, they'll have a Saxon derby again. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts. But I think definitely for Dynamo, it makes or breaks what happens in the next season. Because if they go down, I can't see them coming back up as easily as they did last season. That's the thing. If they go down that way, I think there's going to be a big dip in morale, and it's going to be difficult for them. And of course, the other thing is Hansa looked set for a comfortable mid-table finish. That draw meant they actually went up a place in the league, which I think outstanding. You've got one, we've said it before, but one of the lowest budgets in the Zweite Bundesliga. Hardly any resources compared to some of the other sides in and around that neck of the woods of the table. And I tell you, they've outperformed a lot of nominally bigger sides like Fortuna Dusseldorf. And I think, you've got to be massively proud of themselves, Hans. And I think that's it. They're ending a good season on a high. They won a decent little run of form. So, I think for Hans, fair play to them. And as for how that just sums up their season, really, doesn't it? I think Werder were going into that game needing a result to stay in the hunt for automatic promotion, and they got the result. So I don't think there's really much else to be said. I don't think it was a game we were ever expecting to win, considering the sort of predicament they're in. They're on the beach now, where they know they're relegated. That's it, really. I mean, there's a reality there. So we'll now move on to the Dritte Liga, and I'll quickly read out the results from the Dritte Liga. From our DDR team. So Erste FC Magdeburg 4, 1860 Munich 0, Erste FC Saarbrücken 1, FSV Zwickau 1, and then Würzburger Kickers 1, Hallescher FC 2. So of course, the first main point there is Hallescher FC are mathematically confirming they're safe, which it looked a bit touch and go for a little while. The Andre Meyer revolution had stalled after that shock Cup exit Einheit Wernigerode, and it looked like Halle were sort of careering into the relegation zone, but they've managed to save themselves. So that's a huge win for them, Callum, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a massive. It's to finally get over the line for Halle. It's been touch and go for weeks. As like you said, since that loss in the Sachsen-Anhalt Pokal to Einheit Wernigerode, they just seem to lose their bit of momentum they gained under Andre Meyer since he came in. And it took over into their league form, and they just couldn't get over the line when they needed it. They had a couple of poor draws recently, but it's such a big relief for them to get over the line. And even if it was in fortunate circumstances, I don't know if any of you've seen the goal, but for the winner at Würzburg at the weekend, it looked like they just kicked the ball out for an injury, and they expected Halle just to give the ball back to Würzburg.
Yeah, I did see that. I was
to give the possession, and they end up crossing it in, and Elias Hoot just nods it in. It's like, in fortunate circumstances, but it is what it is, and a point would have been enough anyway for Halle, basically, with their goal difference superior to Victoria Berlin. So it didn't really make massive difference, but at least it's mathematically confirmed now. But it has been it's been a lot better second half of the season, despite everything for Halle, though, because they have been hard to beat now under Andre Meyer. They haven't lost a great deal of games under him. They've just been failing to win. That they drew before this win. They've had four draws in a row, which that just helped them couldn't get over the line. But yeah, it's a massive relief for them now. They can go enjoy the last game of the season at home to Wiesbaden, I believe. Yeah. Wiesbaden, and just enjoy it. But they've got to be better next year. They can't be. They can't be in the same position with 2 games to go, not knowing if they're staying in the division or not. For a club who's as settled in the Dritte Liga as Halle, we can't let complacency go, and they can't be in this position next year. I don't feel. But yeah, the relegation battle is getting even more so crazy. So that's why it makes it even better that Halle got out of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, because it's now down to Phil and Victoria Berlin. Obviously, if Victoria Berlin go down, it has permutations for our clubs in Regionalliga Nordost as well. That would mean 17th spot will go down instead, as well as to accommodate Berlin coming down. So it's worth keeping an eye on, even though Victoria Berlin's a West Berlin club. It's still worth keeping an eye on that little battle going to the last game of the season with Feuer. It's looking like they will go down, but at the moment, if that does happen, then 17th spot will go down. At the moment, that'd be Rathenau. It would be going down, then potentially even 16th with Eilenberg at the moment, if BFC, with their struggles, who we'll come on to in a little bit, fail to go up.
Yeah, I think well, I was going to bring it up about Victoria, that, obviously, as a West Berlin club, we wouldn't normally discuss them, but obviously their relegation has massive permutations for the Regionalliga Nordost. So obviously, if they go down to accommodate them, there's an extra relegation spot, and if BFC fail in the playoff, then there's an extra relegation spot on top of that. So Eilenberg, Optic Rathenau, and Union Fürstenwalde could potentially scrap it out and potentially be safe. And then, so I think, there's a lot riding on the relegation battle in the Dritte Liga. And as we'll move on to soon, the promotion playoff as well, the Regional Liga playoff. But yeah, I think the other thing I just wanted to briefly cover was obviously Magdeburg officially were crowned champions. Obviously, they've been champions elect for a couple of match days now, but they officially were crowned champions, lifted the title after a stunning performance, quite frankly, against TG60 Munich. I watched the highlights. Magdeburg were a joy to watch in that game, as they always have been. They've been playing some really nice football this season, Magdeburg. And yeah, it was just great to see them finally lift the trophy and confirmed as that's it, confirmed league champions, official league champions. Which is great to see Magdeburg get their hands on some silverware as well. Obviously, there's a potential double on the cards for them as well. So, just fair play to Magdeburg, really. They've come to, because obviously this Magdeburg shirt, obviously our YouTube viewers will see this, our Spotify listeners, you can just imagine. This Magdeburg shirt is from the last season in the Regional Liga. Now, it's hard to believe where Magdeburg are now that they were in the Regional Liga, not that long ago, really, in the grand scheme of things. And even further back, they were in the Oberliga, they're in the 5th division. So I think it's brilliant to see Magdeburg coming back up, a big traditional club, and hopefully Dynamo can win in the playoffs so that we can get an Elba Classico next year, because those derbies are always fantastic. I've watched a few vlogs from the MDZ Arena. I've never seen one at the Rudolf Habig Stadium. I've always seen ones at the MDZ Arena, which I think it's even better there because it's a smaller stadium. See, the noise gets kept in more. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant result for Magdeburg, and it was great for them just to put on a show. It was a party atmosphere, the MDZ Arena, and it was great for them just to brush 1860 Munich aside the way they did. And obviously, just touching on Zwickau briefly, obviously that's not a bad result for them. I think Zwickau, they're mid-table, they are where they're going to be. Another sort of, I think it's another sense of just job done for Zwickau, really. That's what they're expected. They're expected to be sort of mid to lower half of the table each season, and they've done it. Obviously, we got a bit of news on the Zwickau front as well. A certain Zwickau legend, if you're a Zwickau fan, this man will be very, very familiar to you. Of course, it is Dan. I think is Frick. Yeah, that's him, Frick. That's not me getting frustrated. That's genuinely the man's name. Obviously, Davy Frick is committed another year to the club, meaning this is his 12th season at Dresden. 12 seasons. I'm not. Some of you that follow me on Twitter would have seen that already, but 12 seasons at Zwickau. 32 years old. He's made 288 appearances to date. That'll go up to 289, hopefully, on the last match day. But yeah, that's him signed another extension. He joined from Karlsruhe Jena 2 in 2011. And I just thought I wanted to throw that in there because I think that's amazing. Like, you call that commitment. 12 seasons at a club's very, very rare in modern football, and especially at that level as well. In the 3rd and 4th division, players move around a lot. So I think, fair play to Davy Frick. Obviously, he's a bit of a fringe player now. He doesn't play that often for Zwickau, but hopefully they make it 289. And Callum, a phenomenal achievement, really, for Davy Frick to be spending a 12th season at Zwickau.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's like you said, it's rare. You rarely see it in today's football. Someone staying around for that long, and to think what he must have seen at Zwickau, because we was on about Magdeburg being the regular Liga Nordost, for many years, and even lower. Zwickau's had their own kind of run as well in there before they got promoted. Was it back in 2015 or something like that? Now, they've been up here for 7 years now as well. So it's the ride he's been on as well as the club. He kind of epitomizes Zwickau's rise through the lower leagues and then, back into professional football. It's a great achievement. And, like you said, he's a bit more of a fringe player now, which is expected, but it's what he brings to the club. He's Mr. Zwickau, if you like. He's the one everyone will know around the club. He's the one that everyone will look to. It's like I said, it epitomizes what Zwickau's rise, and he's been a big part of their stay in the Dritte Liga now. And it's not to question what he's like off the pitch as well in the changing room. I'm sure he's a big personality. And brings the squad together, especially in these tough moments like they have done this year. So phenomenal achievement, and look forward to see what he can do next year for Zwickau, and see them stay up hopefully again.
Yeah, well, another fact I'd like to add in, and I hope he is around for the journey next season, he's only got 4 seasons to go to equal Zwickau's all-time record appearances. Jurgen Kroy, obviously the legendary East Germany goalkeeper, who was a one-club man, and obviously Frick, you can't really count him as being at Karlsruhe because he was only with the reserves. But Jurgen Kroy made 372 appearances for Zwickau, or Sachsenring Zwickau as they were, and he was with them for 16 seasons. 1965 to 1981, Jurgen Kroy was with Sachsenring Zwickau, which I think is amazing. Like, that was rare even then, especially in East German football, when players used to get delegated and everything as well. So, he could do it. I think 32. He's still got a bit of time left. He could equal Jurgen Kroy, certainly, for the amount of seasons he's stuck around for. He's not kicking the backside off of equaling his appearances as well, really. I mean, he's under 100 to go, so you never know. You just never do know. A couple of games in the Saxon Landespokal, and he'll be fine. So I thought I just wanted to add that in there, because I do think it's a phenomenal achievement. And we'll now move on to the Regionalliga Nordost. So we'll get the results rattled off for the Regionalliga Nordost. So Karlsruhe 2, Tennis Borussia Berlin 1. And then obviously the derby win for Chemie Leipzig. They took the bragging rights. Chemie Leipzig 2, Lokomotiv Leipzig 1. BFC Dynamo 1, Berliner AK 2. VfB Auerbach 1, Chemnitzer FC 4. Babelsberg 03 2, Germania Halberstadt 1. Lichtenberg 3, Eilenberg 2. Hertha 2 1, Energie Cottbus 1. FSV Luckenwalde 0. VSG Altglinica 3, Optic Rathenau 2, Union Fürstenwalde 0, Tasmania Berlin 0, ZFC Meuselwitz 6. So I think the main talking point for the Regionalliga Nordost is BFC are trying everything they can in their power to nobble themselves heading into the playoff. I think, you go 1-0 up against Berliner AK, who are a decent side, but reality, that's a game you should be winning, BFC. Go 1-0 up, and then 2 horrific defending mistakes, if I'm being honest, especially for the second goal, and they lose. And they're just lucky that they've got that goal difference in their favour, and that the goal difference swing just isn't going to happen, else Karlsruhe could have jumped them. And you look at this now, I think BFC, if they hadn't have, had such a strong campaign up until they've hit the sticky patch, or if they'd hit the sticky patch earlier, Karlsruhe would have jumped them, because Karlsruhe have been consistent of late. I know they've had a few poor results here and there, but BFC really are lucky that they've got that goal difference in their favour, or else Karlsruhe would have jumped them to top spot. And I just think it's not a good position to be in going into the playoff, especially Oldenburg have been in good form as themselves. And I think if they play Oldenburg when they're on that high and BFC are on that low, it's going to spell disaster. And let's be honest. And I think there's a lot of Optic Rathenau and Eilenberg fans that'll probably be BFCers for the day as well, because they don't want to go down. So I think, BFC really need to watch themselves heading into the playoff, because it's going to be tough. And there's so much riding on it. I just hope that the pressure isn't getting to Ben Bennick and the players, because they really just need to gather themselves and focus, because this isn't the time to be hitting the skids right now, to be honest. And then obviously the other talking point for me was the Leipzig derby. Obviously it was a bit of a thriller. Chemie Leipzig go 1-0 up, Jamal Ziana scoring at the wrong end for Lokomotiv Leipzig. See, when he got told he'd be scoring in a derby, I didn't think he expected it to be like that, if I'm being honest. I feel sorry for him, because I don't think he knew it was coming. He just stuck a foot out and it went in. And of course the commentator said, and the Lokomotiv Leipzig's top goal scorer scores again, it's just at the wrong end. And I thought, I knew that was coming. And then obviously Locke equalised, and then Chemie, and I love this, right in front of the ultras, Chemie score the winner. And of course, it got a bit tasty, the Leipzig derby, as we predicted, which it's never really nice to see that sort of trouble. But at the same time, the atmosphere outside of the few people that got a bit overexcited, shall we say. Apart from that, the atmosphere was outstanding at Leipzig derby. And of course, a bit of a blow to Eilenberg, they're looking at maybe getting dragged into relegation now. Even if 16th don't go down, they're still getting dragged into the relegation battle, because that loss to Lichtenberg isn't going to help them. I don't think that's going to help Eilenberg's case any. Of course, Fürstenwalde, all that work they've done just really sort of got undone with that loss to Optic Rathenau as well. But my main talking points, obviously, BFC sort of looking like a ship letting in water coming into the playoffs, and of course Chemie Leipzig ending what's been a decent campaign for them on a high with a hard fought and well earned derby win. Of course, one last derby win for Captain Carrow as well. Obviously, he's retiring at the end of the season, so it's great to see him get one last derby win under his belt before he retires. So yeah, Callum, what were your talking points for Regional Liga Nordost?
Yeah, basically the same as yours, Jack. To be honest, we'll start with the BFC obviously as well. They're just limping over the line as we've seen in recent weeks. They just seem to let the pressure get to him, haven't they? It's one of them, and you're completely right with the goal difference. That they're very thankful that they've had like a very good start rest of the season up till now, because otherwise, the danger they'd be in. Jena are only 3 points behind. It's looking, they got, was it plus 13 better goal difference or something? So despite an absolute miracle, and it could happen, it's very, very, very unlikely. But given the teams that played against, Jena against Fürstenwalde away, BFC away at Altglienicke as well, you'd say they've got the right fixtures for it, but come on, it's not going to happen. BFC's not going to lose, say, 5-0, and Fürstenwalde needing a result aren't going to just crawl over and lose 7-0 either. It just ain't going to happen. So BFC are lucky to have this goal difference, but yeah, the real worry is the game against Oldenburg, because like we said, they're in good form. They've just completed a great comeback against HSV as well in the regular Liga Nord. And yeah, so they're on a high. They've been in great form all season from the normal group phase and then into the Champions round as well. They've been brilliant, Oldenburg. But it's difficult to say the difference in the quality between the leagues. Is the Nord weaker than the Nordost? It's very hard to tell. So to know what kind of game it's going to be, you just got to expect it's going to be tough, because Oldenburg are a good side despite what the competition has been this year for them. And the same with BFC. You just don't know. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. And I think it's quite similar to what I said with Dresden an hour earlier in that last game of the season. BFC need a result against Altglienicke. I don't think, not necessarily because of the points, but they need it for the momentum to change their mentality around.
Exactly.
A win against Altglienicke will be no mean feat, given how good they've been this season as well. They're sat in third, and a loss to Altglienicke, and at the end of the day, they could finish only 4 points off BFC despite their differences in seasons. So
yeah, exactly.
It's crazy, isn't it? So I think for the mentality, and it's a great. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. It's the after the Fürstenwalde game, the BRK and Altglienicke are great games to warm up BFC for that playoff final, because they're tough teams and they'll give them a good go. So I think it's important for them, and it's going to be a tough couple of games. I mean, but they can't go in the back off with three. Well, what it will be if they don't win, it will be one win in about 5 or 6 games for BFC, and that's not freaking promotion for them, is it? Like not. Jesus. So
Oldenburg will smell blood, basically.
They will, and it'll be very, very tough. So, oh God, you don't know about that at all. But yeah, I'll move on to the other games as well. Yeah, Chemie, I called it last week that it Chemie win.
You did?
And it happened. It looked like Locke would have saved a point going into the last couple of minutes when Chemie, before Chemie got the winner. But yeah, and Chemie, you felt it just kind of meant something to them with their 4-0 on the season. Locke have paid the price for recent weeks and taking their eye off the ball a bit, and it's hard for them to raise themselves again for it. And that just kind of confirms what a bad end to the season it has been for them. But yeah, and in the stands as well, like we saw a little bit of trouble going off, which is obviously not nice to see. But the vast majority were brilliant on both sides.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, it created a great atmosphere, and like I tweeted as well. This is the real Leipzig passion that there is. This is not about corporate stuff. It's complete. This is Leipzig real football. And despite a couple that attempted to ruin it, but it's not focused on them at all. It's about what
it's about the fans that came to enjoy themselves, and they had an excellent. I think, despite the result, I think the Lokomotiv Leipzig fans had an excellent day, sold out away end, which was great to see. So yeah, I think the Leipzig derby's went, and it's such a great advert for football in Leipzig outside of RB. So we'll now move on to the lower leagues, and of course we'll start off as ever with the surrogate podcast team, Rot Weiss Erfurt. A fantastic 3-0 win over VfL Halle for them. So, of course, that means RBA are more or less officially back in the Regionalliga Nordost. They've been frightening recently. I think we talk about it every time we talk about Rot Weiss Erfurt. We talk about how frightening they've been. They've been playing some excellent attacking football, and they've been racking up some big scores as well. And obviously, we're just delighted to have them back. I think that's it. We'll be getting a Thuringian derby the next season as well, which is fantastic. It's such a great fixture, another great fixture. And I think there's big times ahead at the Steigerwald Stadion next season. So, yeah, it's brilliant to see Rot Weiss Erfurt back. And we'll now move on to another. So, obviously, as always, we pick another lower league team to talk about. And so you're getting the best of the action from around the DDR. And this week, Stahl Brandenburg are getting singled out purely because, well, I suppose earlier on in the season, there maybe would have been a bit more to talk about in terms of the football. But I think it's their fantastic away support in Premnitz was, that's what I've got to pick out for that, is their away support was amazing. Taking that many fans to a town in the middle of nowhere in rural Brandenburg, fair play to them. Because I think, and I said this before, I think people saw my tweet replying to Callum about, I remember years back they took loads to Eisenhüttenstadt, which isn't particularly a very easy place to get to for a game against Stahl Eisenhüttenstadt as well. So I think Stahl Brandenburg has just been fantastic. So obviously they edged out Chemie Premnitz, Chemie Premnitz are just sort of one of those sides that puttles along in the Landesliga Nords, but that means Stahl moving to solidify third. Obviously Grün-Weiß Arnsfelde are way out in front. I'm saying obviously, like, people are big fans of the Landesliga Nord. Grün-Weiß Arnsfelde are way out in front. I think they're about 20 points clear at the top of the league. So obviously Grün-Weiß Arnsfelde are getting promoted to the Verbandsliga. That's not coming for Stahl this season. But I think they've had a good season, Stahl. Decent campaign. Obviously with COVID restrictions being removed in Brandenburg, they were one of the first states to sort of bin the vaccine passports and everything. It was great to see that so many Stahl fans make the journey to support the team, and they're amazing. Stahl Brandenburg fans are amazing, and the way they back the team, even at such a low level, you've got to remember that the Landesliga Nords is 7th division. The way they back the team at such a low level is fantastic. It's amazing. You don't get away. I mean, RB Leipzig don't take away support. That just proves you there's real East German football. RB Leipzig couldn't be bothered taking more than a couple of thousand to Glasgow for a Europa League semi-final. Well, Stahl Brandenburg in their numbers went to Premnitz in the middle of nowhere, out the back arse of Brandenburg. And they had pyro, they had flags, they had a banner, and they were singing for the whole game. So I think you just got to say that's brilliant for Stahl Brandenburg. And hopefully we see them at a high level soon. So Callum, I mean, what are your thoughts on that amazing away support?
Oh, well, like you said, Jack, I have to echo everything you said. It's brilliant support for that level in Landesliga Nord, the 7th tier. And with nothing to play for, really, being Arensfeld have been absolutely superb this whole season, and they're not going to be anywhere close to it just because of how good the competition has been. But yeah, Stahl Brandenburg, I just can't believe they've been down there for that long with support that good. It'd be so brilliant, and not just Stahl Brandenburg, but there's a couple other clubs around there that I do cover on my Twitter as well. Like, you got FC Frankfurt and FC Eisenhüttenstadt as well, and Stahl Riesa. There's some big ex-DDR clubs that would just be brilliant to see him back up in the Nordost at the very least. But yeah, great support by Stahl Brandenburg, and I hope next season will be their season.
Yeah, I hope so. We really want to see them further up the leagues because they've been amazing in terms of their support. I think they have better supports than a lot of Regional Liga Nordos, like Germania, Halberstadt, and Moise, sort of the smaller sides in the Regional Liga Nordos. So we'll now move on to our Frauenfußball segment. Of course, both our Frauen Bundesliga sides were in action, and it wasn't a great weekend for DDR Frauenfußball. So Turbine Potsdam lost 2-0 at home to Eintracht Frankfurt. And Karl Zeiss Jena. It was a very close game against Wolfsburg, 10-1 to Wolfsburg. And that, of course, I think Karl Zeiss were in it right up until the end. It was a close one. No, but obviously Karl Zeiss Jena Frauen lost 10-1 to Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg crowned Frauen Bundesliga champions at the Ernst Haber Sportfeld as well. So obviously the main talking point there, we'll move on to Karl Zeiss Jena in a second because that's a whole different kettle of fish. But obviously Turbine are going to potentially throw Champions League down the toilet. Obviously, Eintracht are now level on points with them. The goal difference is quite tight, and Turbine have to play Bayern away on the last game of the season as well. So I think Turbina's, if they do lose out, they've built their own coffin. I think if they beat Eintracht, that would have been it finished. That would have been it finished. They would have had Champions League. They would have been 6 points clear with 3 to play for if they'd beaten Eintracht, but they didn't. So it's sad, but they can't dwell on it, I think, because they've got a Pokal final. If they win the Pokal, then I think that qualifies them for the Champions League anyway. So I hope, Callum, I'm sort of lost for words here because it's disappointing. We really thought Turbine were going to get it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was the big game, weren't it? It's the big one. Penultimate game of the season. It's the battle for the Champions League, and they lost. There's nothing more you can say, really. They lost, and the game they got at the end of the season now, Bayern, it's going to be incredibly tough, isn't it? It's not what you want. Frankfurt have got to go to Bremen. Bremen sit 9th. It looks like Frankfurt will win and they will qualify for the Champions League, because going to Bayern is going to be no mean feat. It's going to take some doing for Potsdam to win. But yeah, like you says, Jack, the only hope really is win the Pokal, and that'll still be a successful season. Let's not forget as well, to win some silverware would be brilliant, and it would be disappointing to not make the Champions League through the league anyway. But it just shows how far they've come anyway from where they have been the last few years. It'd be brilliant to see them. Just even with lift some silverware, it'll be a successful season for him. But yeah, it's going to be difficult. But it is in their own hands at the moment. They have to do something special at Bayern. But that if that's what's required, that's what they got to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the thing is, the only thing I can see going in Turbine's favour is Bayern will be on the beach. They lost the league out to Wolfsburg. They were hoping to defend the league title. Wolfsburg came back off a shocking start to the season and managed to get in there and storm their way to the title in the end. So I think the only thing that's going in is Bayern might be just on the beach and not bothering. And then I think I'd rather they do it through leagues. I think denying Wolfsburg their double is going to be a tough ask. But of course, we've got that Frauen Pokal final to look forward to. Now, we now move on to Karl Zeiss Jena, and obviously, Callum, I mean, we looked at the replays, and I've said this before, but this is what happens when you put a very young team with no experience against Holland and Germany internationals. I felt so sorry for I think it was Julia Arnold, who's 18, getting put up against Jill Ruard, who potentially could lift the Euros with Holland in the summer. It just sums up Karl Zeiss's season, and I think we've spoke about it on here before, but they should have never have got promoted. They got lucky in it was the old system of a North and a South division. They won the South division, sort of fluked their way to it, came up, they have a young team, and it just didn't, it's not worked out. And of course, that was a heavy loss. Wolfsburg went there knowing that if they needed to win, they won the league. A win would guarantee them the league title, and obviously, that it reminds me of that old Simpsons meme, stop, he's already dead. I think at 7-0 they maybe could have stopped, but they didn't. They had to go and get double figures. But I think the main talking point, I want to focus on Karl Zeiss Jena, result aside, and in talking about that squad, is obviously a bit of a blow to them for the rebuild next season. Is their best player out arguably this season, Rita Schumacher. is off to St. Pölten in Austria. So, Cal, how much of a big blow is that for Karlsruhe to be losing Rita Schumacher?
Well, it's like we said in a couple of podcasts now, and this relegation, as we've been confirmed for a long time now, but it's not going to be any easier in the second division now. And our fears of them probably maybe going straight through divisions could be realised now, and that's how big of a loss it can be for them, because it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. You're losing your key players, and after a back of the season like this, you've got no kind of winning mentality at all. You don't know what it's like to even win a game. They've only won one this whole year, isn't it? And there's a real risk now, especially losing her, that they could go straight through divisions. Obviously, because now it's a nationwide league as well, so it's not the same division they came up from. There's a lot more tougher teams.
Exactly.
And there's a real risk they can go straight through to the Nordost again, right in the third tiers. So it's disappointing, very disappointing. But when you see, if you're not seeing the goal they conceded at the weekend to Wolfsburg, and just go check out Jack's Twitter and just go back a few and see the goal. It's really comical, to be fair, isn't it? If you don't laugh, you'll cry. It's that bad, but just like you said, it sums up their season, doesn't it?
In Uli Arnold's defence, Osterelvig had a shocker like that, and why he was that far, I remember it was against Chemnitz the other season. Osterelvig, now why he was that far back is beyond me, but it must just be a thing with Karlsruhe. They like to concede silly goals. But we'll now move on to our final segment. It's my turn to do the On This Day this week. So on this day in 1984, BFC Dynamo claimed their 6th consecutive DDR Oberliga title in dramatic fashion at the Kurt Babel Stadion as they beat Hallescher FC Chemie 5-4. Now, this is one of these ones where a certain Mr. Mielke might have been to thank for it, because BFC needed to win by needed to score a certain amount of goals to lift the league title, and they did. So make of that what you will, considering the allegations around that success. But that also meant that Hallescher FC got relegated as well. So BFC won the title, Hallescher FC got relegated. So that meant Hallescher FC Chemie would obviously be spending the 1984-85 season in the DDR Liga. So Callum, I'm looking forward to your On This Day next week, because you always bring in some good ones.
We'll see what we can find. We'll see.
Yeah, well, more match fixing from BFC. Anyway, Mielke's not here to help them this season. Anyway, there we go. That's me getting put in Hohenschönhausen now. But we'll now move on to the end of the podcast. Thank you, everybody, so much again for listening. Your support has been phenomenal so far over our 7 episodes. And like I say every time, we're just 2 lads talking about our interest, and it's brilliant to get all the support, especially from everybody in the radio GDR discussion group on Facebook. You guys have been amazing. And thank you to Chat Bundesliga, Feuer, and Sean, who retweet all our stuff. Anytime a podcast is out, they're immediately on it, retweeting it, sharing it. So thank you to everybody that supports the podcast. It really does mean a lot to us. It'll be on my YouTube channel again. So because we get feedback, we are working on Apple Podcasts, just about housekeeping there. We are working on Apple Podcasts. That will get set up hopefully ahead of next season starting for our results shows. We'll have more specials and everything around the corner as well. But until next time, folks, thank you for listening, and auf Wiedersehen.